Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. Today I'm here with a review of the brand new Indiana Jones Adventure series, Indiana Jones from Raiders of the Lost Ark. Like I said, it's a brand new figure line from Hasbro, so I just had to see what it's about. You know, being a fan of Indiana Jones anyway, I was obviously going to pick up Indy, but it's more interesting to see what sort of integrations they're making to the figures and stuff with a new figure line, and they have made some changes. So we'll get into those in a minute, but let's start with the box. So as you can see, plastic free packaging. I think this is my first 6-inch figure that I've got that has the plastic free packaging. I did get a remastered Blue Ranger Mighty Morphin, and it was broken inside the packaging. That's a whole other story. And yeah, besides from that, this is the first one. So great looking box. We've got a render of Indy and pictures, and like patterns and like a map background and stuff. A really good looking box, the best plastic free box. I think they have made a U-turn on that, so that's not happening anymore. And you know, for obvious reasons, I think it's a good choice. It's going to save the customers a lot of hassle in the future. So as from 2024, we'll have the plastic packaging back. So it didn't last long, but I'm glad that they decided to take a U-turn on that. So we've got Build an Artifact, which I'll get into in a bit. We've got the other characters in the wave, which I won't be picking up because I'm not that big of a fan to get all these characters, and I think this wave is going to have that problem, or this figure line in general, where they're putting so much effort into it, and that's great, but it's not every figure is going to be like that enticing for everyone to pick up, and I know for a fact that a lot of these are probably going to get reduced. This first wave was quite popular, like on pre-orders. I think it was for the excitement that we finally have an Indiana Jones wave, but they've announced about 5 indies in the space of about 2 months, so I can see a lot of these getting reduced in the future. If they do get reduced, I may pick up some depending on what prices they get reduced to. But yeah, I think it will suffer from that problem of people not wanting to pick everything up. So like I said, we've got Build an Artifact, and on the back we've got renders of everything he comes with, and another, I think, is this the same render? Yeah, on the front. And yeah, we've got nice art on the side and stuff. Really good looking box, resealable as well. But yeah, besides from that, let's get into the accessories. So here is Indy out of the packaging, and like I said before, let's start with the accessories. So first off, you've got your Build an Artifact pieces, which if you're not building the artifact are basically useless. You've got your pairs of hands, so you've got 2 fisted hands. You've got 1 holding hand, which is for the idol, which I'll show in a second. 1 revolver hand, 1 way more relaxed hand, and 1 whip holding hand, which you can see on the figure. We've got the idol itself, which looks great, and obviously, like I said, he can hold it with 1 of the hands. Then we've got the uncoiled whip, we've got the coiled whip, and then we've got his revolver as well. And those are pretty much the accessories. Some of the accessories have problems. I'll probably just get those out of the way right now. The revolver, when it goes into the holster, can be warped. As you can see, mine is slightly warped, as you can see there. It doesn't actually come warped out of the packaging, at least I didn't experience that. I've had it in its holster as I've been messing around with it, and I've taken it out and now it's warped. It can easily be, I think, pushed back into its normal position, but yeah. And there's also a problem with this and this, which we'll get into in a minute. And then this comes like warped out of the packaging. It's like it comes in the same position as this, so it comes as like wrapped up, and then even after like trying to adjust it just like this, it doesn't really adjust. The whip's like the plastic strength of it kind of just takes it back to its original position. So this is sort of the most I've been able to do with it. You can heat it up at your own risk with hairdryer or hot water and mold it. I've heard it still kind of just goes back to this position after a while, but you know, for poses and like pictures and stuff, heating it up for a small amount of time won't be too bad. But please do that at your own risk. Be careful not to snap it, because like I said, it is quite sturdy, but you know, it's still considerably thin piece of plastic, so it can be snapped. And Yeah, and so those are really the only problems I have with the accessories. So without further ado, let's take a closer look at the figure itself. Taking a closer look at Indy, we'll start at the top with the hat. Hat looks great shape-wise, color-wise. The only problem with the hat is that the wear on it, you can see obviously this like a lot lighter orangey type of brown. It's too obvious and it pops out too much. It should be a lot more subtle and a lot more blended in. It would have made a great difference, but it still looks great nonetheless. We've got, coming down to the face, we've got the likeness to Harrison Ford is there. I think that looks a lot like young Harrison Ford. Only problem I really have with this face is that it's really glossy. No matte finish on it, and it makes it look quite weird in a certain lighting. As you can see there perfectly, it makes it look weird. Same gloss or like absence of matte finish is also on the undershirt there. It looks, with the undershirt you can't tell as much because of the color. With obviously the face you can tell because it's different colors. Because this is one flat color, it's not as bad, but you can still tell. And yeah, I think a matte finish on both of those will make this figure even better. You can add your own matte finish if you know how to do it. I might do it in the future. If I do, I'll probably put some pictures on my Instagram, so you can go and check that out, link in the description. And yeah, besides from that, we've got the jacket. Jacket looks great. You've also got the same wear, but like the same wear as the hat, but it looks a lot more blended into the creases and whatever of the jacket. And I think it looks way better on the jacket than it does on the hat. Maybe because the jacket's also a darker color, and maybe there's less of it on the jacket and it's a wider surface area, but I think it looks a lot better. Maybe a little bit more blended in. Probably what they should have done on the hat, but yeah, it looks pretty good. We've also got his bag, which I forgot is technically an accessory because you can take it off. It's quite hard to take it. It's not hard, but you would struggle to take it off. Bag looks great as well. You see we've got a lot of creasing and detail stuff molded in. Buttons and a buckle there with the brown strap. Then we could come down to the belt. We've got the first belt, which is his normal belt. Silver buckle, normal brown belt with the holes in the trousers for it to go through. Very nice molding and detailing in this figure, especially with just like the plastic molds, creasing, you know, in the shirt, the pockets, everything, even in the jacket. It's very, very, very nice, and I think they've done it very well. It's just sort of with paint and color where it kind of, I wouldn't say lacks, but it lets it down a slight bit. But yeah, we've got the second buckle, belt buckle, for his holster and his whip storage as well. And this is where the problem lies. Not look-wise, looks great, but you know how it actually works. So this where the coiled whip is supposed to plug into. This tab does not peg into this hole where it's supposed to, because it's not hollowed out properly, the hole. And I think that's on every copy I've seen. So what you're going to want to do is probably poke a hole through that with something else and maybe make the hole bigger. I'd heat that up first so you don't risk ripping the belt. I might do it eventually, but not yet. And the second problem is when you put the gun in the holster and you try to close this is really hard to close. It can still be done, especially once you've done it before. It can still be done. I probably won't be able to do this on the video. Yeah, it can still be done, but it's very, very, very tricky. I managed to do it once, and I'll probably do it again, but you have to concentrate a little bit. Coming down to the legs, we've got the like brown trousers. They look really good amount of molding and whatnot. You've got the pockets molded on the back as well, and then if we look under this, you can see the undershirt and the belt. Overall, a really nice look for the figure. The gloss is just the main thing. Everything else looks really good. But yeah, with that out of the way, let's get into the articulation. So starting off with the head, we can have a full rotation and, you know, a great tilt up about that far, down about that far, which is still pretty good. Head's on a dumbbell joint, which really helps it with, you know, range of motion. You get a really nice tilt on that. And then coming down to the torso area, we've got no ab crunch here, so they didn't decide to break the chest mold to get an ab crunch. I've seen that on the Temple of Doom indie. I think there might be, there's no break in that, But the second evil Indiana Jones, which is obviously shirtless, they have decided to go with a break for ab crunch there. But yeah, no ab crunch on this one. You instead have a ball hinge which goes into the waist, which gets a great range of motion considering for what articulation point it is, and it kind of makes up for the ab crunch not being there. I would have liked to see it, how they done it, but they didn't decide to do it, and the figure looks a lot more cleaner for it. I mean, it doesn't break the mold and whatnot. So, yeah, I don't blame them too much. Then we've got the arms. There's a butterfly joint in here, as you can see. That kind of shifts back and forth. It also goes up and down, which can, use for drop down, but sometimes it makes the arms look like uneven on one side and the other, so you want to prop that up properly when you're gonna display him and whatnot. But yeah, it can give you great range. Them arms come out to the side, probably not best demonstrated with this one because it's still a bit stiff. That far up, we get a full rotation. Then we come down to the elbows where we've got a single joint but still gets a good far back. No bicep swivel, instead we've got elbow swivel, which makes up for it. Basically a very similar articulation point. And then we've got a brand new integration to the Hasbro line, which is something I'm very excited to talk about, which is the hands. So the hands are on a ball peg instead of being the normal wrist pegs that you plug straight in. And you're popping it on ball joints now. So there's no hinge for these ball joints, but it does give you a good amount of range back and forth. I think when I first saw this, I thought, oh yeah, they're moving towards SH Figure Arts, but then I saw the ball didn't have a hinge, but it's not that bad. You can get a good amount of range out of each hand for it as well. Yeah, I think it works without a hinge, so it's nothing to complain about. Also, the hands they feel a lot more sturdier. They pop off easily and they pop back on easily, but they don't feel loose. So that's really good. That's had that effect on it. And yeah, moving further down the figure, we come to his legs. Legs are a little bit restricted from this, but still, that'll move out the way. That'll move out the way when you want it to. So, leg can kick up about that far forward, very far forward actually. Kick back about that much, which is pretty decent still. Splits, pretty good. We've got a thigh rotation, really nice feeling thigh rotation there. It's not like stiff and you have to break the mold and you can risk breaking the figure. It's a very good thigh rotation, so good to have that. Then we've got the single jointed knees, which can still kick up very high. The single joints on these figures are taken from Black Series, 100%, you can tell. Even from like Han Solo figures, this feels like, especially with these single joints, the Force Awakens Han. So yeah, it still really works, and it works very well. It still works with Black Series. It doesn't give you the full range, but it still works pretty good. It gives you enough range that you're going to get some good poses out of it. Now, here's another problem, in my opinion. We come to the feet. Feet can kick about that far forward. That's quite good. Sorry, that far back, and then that not much forward at all. The feet articulation is pretty good. You get your standard ankle pivot, which is hard to get going, but once you've got it, it's good. It's just sometimes it's a bit tricky to stand. You have to get him in a certain position, and that's because of the heels on the boots that are molded in, which obviously accurate, but yeah, it can lead to standing issues. But you know, it's still pretty easy to stand. It's not going to be difficult, but it is a bit more difficult than, you know, your flat-footed figures. But overall, articulation's pretty good for this guy. And yeah, let's get on to some comparisons. So here is Indy with some of his accessories before we get into comparisons. So here he's holding his revolver and his coiled up whip. I didn't realise that this hand was for the coiled up whip, but I think looking at the shape that it is. So yeah, that looks pretty good. I imagine that if you are going to have him holding his revolver, you're going to want to have the coiled up whip in there. So you are going to have to amend the belt. And I probably will end up amending my belt a little bit later on, just for like pictures and stuff. So yeah, I think what you're going to have to do is maybe heat it up and just poke something through there just to make sure that the peg can fit in. And yeah, so there he is with the gun and the coiled up whip. Now I'm going to give him his uncoiled whip and just take the coiled one out of his hand. And as you can see, he can hold that really well as well. That hand is perfectly made for the uncoiled whip. And yeah, as you can see, that looks great. I think that's how I'm going to have him. And then I'm going to put his revolver in his holster and just shut that. That's probably like one of the more iconic, just to have Indy with his whip. Then you can try and place the idol in one of his hands. I'll try and do that now and show you guys. So there he is holding the idol, and I think that looks great. It's just placed in his palm. He can't actually hold it properly, which is a bit of a shame because, you know, I would have liked to have maybe some running poses where he's holding it in his hand and he's running and like it's facing sort of downwards. But as soon as you try and like just move it, it's going to fall out of place. You can maybe secure it with some blue tack or something, but yeah, he can't really actually hold it. You can only place it in his hand, but the idol does look great if you want to have it on display anyway. But yeah, with that said, let's get into some comparisons. So starting off with the first comparison, we have Indy standing next to the Power of the Force Han Solo. I thought it was great to compare these two figures, especially because they're both young Harrison Ford figures. It's great to compare the head sculpts, and obviously I think the Indy does look miles better. The Power of the Force Han is quite old, so you'll have to give it credit where it's due. I think it still looks pretty good for its age, and I think they both look like their movie counterparts. So I think they look pretty good. And one thing that actually surprised me is that they both stand at pretty much exactly the same size. Indy probably a little bit taller just because of his hat, but without his hat, probably exactly the same size. And I didn't think that was going to be the case. I thought one might be off scale, but they've done pretty well based on that. So yeah, let's get into the next comparison. Here is Indy standing next to the superhero Goku from SH Figure Arts. Just wanted to quickly do this comparison just to show you how he scales against 5-inch figures in SH Figure Arts line. So yeah, there he is standing next to Goku. And here is Indy next to your standard 6-inch figure, the Marvel Legends Amazing Fantasy 15 Spider-Man. So yeah, I think they stand at, like I said, with the hand, exactly the same size. Indy gets a bit of height because of the hat, but if he wasn't wearing the hat, it would be pretty much the exact same size. So guys, we have reached the end of the video, and overall, I really enjoyed this figure. I think it's a really good figure and a really good first attempt at Indiana Jones in the 6-inch line. A really good introduction to the line overall. I think I'd give it about an 8.5. As you can see, he looks great. The likeness to Harrison Ford is there. The great amount of detail in the sculpt and a great amount of paint. Really good amount of accessories, and I'm loving the new hand pegs as well. So overall, yeah, I think I'd give it an 8.5 with just the glossiness of the head letting it down. I think a matte finish would have really topped that off nicely. And maybe an interchangeable head without the hat and a separate hat accessory would have been really good too. But overall, I recommend you pick up this figure. I will try and find a link for where this figure's in stock in the UK and leave it in the description. I'll also leave my Instagram down there as well, so you can check out my figure photography. If you did enjoy this video, don't forget to leave a like. If you do enjoy my channel, don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to share with all your family and friends, and I'll see you in the next video.